Hello there, it's Mr. P again. How did you get on with your bit of writing? I hope you've managed to have a go. I hope you've started your first paragraph. And like I say, I'm absolutely pumped. I can't wait to read some of your writing. Today we're going to look at part 2, and we're going to be introduced to the main character and think about how we can use the short animation to actually be what we want it to be. So we're using the animation as a base for our imagination to fly, rather than just retelling what we can see. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to get myself into my small little box again, so that we can have a look at the slides, and we'll just have a little recap of where we got up to. So in part 1, we had a look here, didn't we? We were just trying to set the scene, and we had a go at looking at this landscape and seeing that it was all overgrown. The motorways are overgrown, the tower blocks are abandoned, and the trees are growing out of the windows. And then, as we talked about, maybe some of you saw a little flock of birds out. I don't know whether you saw that, if you watched the video again, or you heard some of those sounds. Then we sort of zoomed in, and there's one particular tower block which has this Haven Nanosystems written there, and then we had this clank of something being thrown out of the one of the high floor windows, and this object sails through the air to land with a deafening crunch on the ground. It kind of occurred to me that perhaps we might not know how to start. So I've just got a couple of examples if you want to do anything and you kind of get stuck for a place to start. I thought, how about this for a starter? Nothing moved. The sun beat down on the city, if you could still call it a city. Off you go. How about this for a starter? Insects screamed in the hot sun. A mean wind blew across the abandoned tower blocks. Off we go. Just a couple of ideas for you. Anyway, today we're going to look at part 2, and we're going to try and introduce the main character. So it's not a bad idea if you want to go back and watch that short animation again, just to refresh your mind. I've got some pictures here to help prompt those memories, but going back and having a little look is no bad thing, really. So in the video, we now become introduced to our main character. And I think introducing a character is, if you're not careful, you're just going to rewrite the character that you see in the movie. And that's okay. That's okay. Although if you want to, you can add your own identity onto this character. I think the character in the movie is male. It certainly looks to be that way, although it could be a slender female. We don't know for certain, do we? But I think this character could actually be anything you want. Your hero could be your hero. Now, I think the one thing that you need to bear in mind is that a reader will generally, if they're not told to do so otherwise, will generally try to will naturally imagine things that are close to themselves. So if I'm not told otherwise, there's a good chance that if I read a book and I see he, then I'm going to start thinking a he that looks a little bit like me. So if you want your character to be different, we're going to have to choose words that are going to create that different identity. So for example, you know, it's a he, there's going to create a he. If you use the word she, that's going to create a she. And why not have a female character? That's fine. Hair is also another really subtle way of just quickly getting the reader to change their mind about a character. You have blonde hair, braided hair, ginger hair, wavy hair. Just add something very easily into adding just a little bit more description. A throwaway comment, just a little muttering, might indicate more of their identity, ethnicity even, if they sort of mumbled something along the lines of, I can't see what it might mean, or what be this? Then that might add, I don't know, that's not a very good Scottish accent, but it's along that way, isn't it? And just a couple of words in some kind of particular dialect will push the reader into imagining a character that is beyond themselves. And I think as a writer, that's what you're trying to do, is always push the reader, push them into feeling or seeing things that perhaps they're not normally going to do. So yeah, play around with that. Don't just make the character that you see. Yeah, push it. So anyway, we've got the character here, which could be anything that you want, and the character emerges from somewhere. We guess that they've come down the flights of stairs. It must have taken a while to have a look at the box that flew out of the window so far up, and they give it a kick, and it opens, and there's all sorts of things in there, and actually we can see that it's some kind of safe, isn't it? And the reason that they needed to drop it from such a height is that perhaps they couldn't open it, so the fall has actually opened the safe for them. So then they rummage around inside, and then they pull out some kind of mobile phone, and then we've got to see that there's some kind of mission here, isn't there? And here we can see the words under quarantine. So there's some kind of lockdown going on. So maybe this character is somewhere where they shouldn't be, and they need to escape from it, or maybe they need to get to a place where that has been locked down. We don't need to say too much about it, but we know that they're looking for something, and they've got some information from this safe. And then suddenly, right at the end, it's quite interesting, the character stands up suddenly, and what can they hear? Can they feel something? And they sort of move, don't they? And they're almost like listening out, and they can hear something happening in the distance, the beating of rotor blades. We know it's a sort of a helicopter type drone thing. So they hear something. That's kind of as far as we're going to go, really. So we've got, we've set the scene, something falls out, goes crash, dust, silence again, and then through the dust, the settling dust, emerges our hero, our character. The mystery, it could be a he, could be a she, could be Scottish, it's up to you. Then we realise that they've got to get somewhere, or they found some information about it, and then suddenly they hear something which makes them stand up and freeze and listen. There's quite a lot to take in there. I've just given you a few little ideas here. I just had to go out writing something myself. It's not very good, and I'm sure that you can do better. But this is taking it from this point here where the character emerges towards this safe. So here we go. It says, what had fallen from the tower block was a large metal box, like a refrigerator, or a safe, or even a coffin. Slowly through the settling dust emerged, I've made a mistake there, haven't I? Emerged, that's why we need to proofread our work, don't we? Let me check that. Slowly through the settling dust emerged a figure moving slowly. Oh, I've got two slowies there. Slowly through the settling dust emerged a figure. I'm just going to get rid of all of that. I don't need that, actually. Certainly don't need two movings, do I? Okay. Let me try again. What had fallen from the tower block was a large metal box, like a refrigerator, a safe, or even a coffin. Slowly through the settling dust emerged a figure. I've put he or she here. I'm just going to say he, because I think my character might be a he. He wore a baseball cap pulled down low upon his face. The scarf covered his face. Oh, I've got face. I think I don't need two faces, do I? See, editing is really, really important. So actually, I'm going to go for a she, actually. She wore a baseball cap pulled down low, pulled down low, pulled down low. I'm going to do a little hyphen there. A scarf covered her face. There we go there. She wore a baseball cap pulled down low. The scarf covered her face. When they reached the box, they looked, they can be a she now because I've decided. She looked left and right to check if they were alone, to check if she were alone, and then kicked the metal box. The door fell open with a clank. I need a comma there, don't I? Spilling its secrets across the floor. Am I happy with that? I'm not too sure. Let's have a final read. What had fallen from the tower block was a large metal box like a refrigerator, a safe, or even a coffin. Slowly through the settling dust emerged a figure. She wore a baseball cap pulled down low. A scarf covered her face. When they reached the box, she looked left and right to check if she were alone, then kicked the metal box. The door fell open with a clank, spilling its secrets across the floor. It's not bad. I'm quite happy with that. Anyway, what are you going to do? That's all from me now, so I'm going to stay in my little box today. Yeah, have fun. Have fun and just enjoy your writing. Take care. Till next time. Bye-bye.